All right, today we're going to dive into something that causes, well, a ton of friction pretty much everywhere, right? From the office to family dinners. We're talking about time and this really simple but fascinating fact that we just don't all experience it the same way.
I mean, you know the feeling, right? You've been absolutely fuming because someone was an hour late and they just stroll in like it's no big deal. Or, hey, maybe you're the one who looks at a deadline and thinks, it's more of a guideline. Well, it turns out this isn't just about someone being rude or disorganized. No, it goes way, way deeper than that. It's actually about culture.
So, check out this quote from a writer of Bangladeshi origin who was living in the UK. She said when they were told a family wedding started at 2 p.m., they'd turn up at 3, and so would all the other guests. For her, you see, 2 p.m. wasn't some strict hard and fast rule. It was more like an invitation. The real party started whenever the community actually showed up. And that right there, that points to a huge fundamental difference in how we even see time.
Okay, so how do we even start to unpack all these differences? Well, believe it or not, there's a whole field of study dedicated to this.
It's called chronemics, and basically, chronemics is the study of how time impacts our communication. It looks at everything from punctuality to how long we're willing to wait for someone, even to how fast we talk. At its core, our idea of time is this powerful, unspoken language that's shaping our relationships and our work every single day. So, one of the biggest ideas in this whole field splits the world into two big groups based on how we handle our tasks. So ask yourself, are you a one thing at a time person or are you a multitasking master? Let's break it down. First up, you've got monochronic time. In this view, time is a real tangible thing. You can save it, you can spend it, you can definitely waste it. It's like a conveyor belt, One task comes, you do it, the next one comes. But then you've got polychronic time, which is, well, it's way more fluid. The big focus isn't on the schedule. It's all about the people, the relationships, the human interaction. And this is really where you see the difference in what people value. For monochronic folks, deadlines are absolutely sacred. They're committed to the job, to the task. Polychronic people, they're committed to people. The end goal is more important than some strict deadline. And yeah, they can change plans on a dime, something that would probably give a monochronic person a heart attack. And you can pretty much see this split all over the world. Countries like the US, Germany, Japan, they tend to be super monochronic. And this mindset really got locked in during the Industrial Revolution, when the factory clock was suddenly king. On the other hand, you've got cultures in Latin America, Africa, and South Asia that are often polychronic. For them, time is flexible. It bends to fit the needs of the people and their relationships. Okay, but it gets even more interesting than that. It's not just about how we schedule our day. It's about the actual shape we think time has. So in most of the Western world, time is seen as a road, right? The past is behind you, the future is stretching out in front of you. And that view makes time a limited resource. That's exactly where we get that phrase, time is money. If you're not constantly moving forward on that road, you're wasting it. Then there's what's called multi-active time. You see this a lot in Southern Europe and Latin cultures. Here, time exists to serve people, not the other way around. The most important thing is what's happening right now. So if you're in an important conversation, it just keeps going, no matter what the clock says. The human connection, the interaction, that's the point, not ticking off a box on a schedule. Now compare that to many Eastern and indigenous cultures where time isn't a road at all. It's a circle. Think about the seasons. They always come back, right? Events repeat. Time isn't scarce. It's abundant. It's renewable. So if you miss out on something, it's not wasted forever because that opportunity will probably come around again. So instead of rushing a decision, you might sort of walk around the pool of the problem, just looking at it from every angle before you dive in. And a really powerful example of this kind of long-term circular thinking comes from the Iroquois Confederacy. They have what's called the 7-generation principle. Basically, it means leaders have to think about how their decisions will affect people 7 generations from now. Just let that sink in. That is a completely different way of seeing the future compared to, say, a quarterly earnings report. Okay, and just when you think you've kind of got it figured out, get ready for this. This might be the most mind-bending view of all. In Madagascar, the Malagasy people see the past as being in front of them. Why? Because you can see it. It's known. It's happened. The future, on the other hand, is totally unknown, so it flows into the back of your head. And think about it. How can you plan every little detail for something you literally can't even see? So, we've looked at these big, sweeping cultural ideas. But this stuff also gets really personal.
Inside any culture, we all have our own internal rhythms. So the question is, are you a clock timer or an event timer? A clock timer, you live by the clock. Lunch is at noon, work ends at 5. That's it. But an event timer, you're guided by what's going on inside. You eat when you get hungry. You work on a project until it just feels finished. And that could be at 4 p.m. one day or 10 p.m. the next. So which one are you? And look, neither one of these is better than the other. They just have totally different goals. Clock timers are all about efficiency, getting the task done within the allotted time. Event timers, though, they're driven by effectiveness. They want to get the task done right, no matter how long it takes. Yeah, this can sometimes drift into perfectionism, for sure.
But here's the cool part. These two types can actually work together perfectly. So there are these two researchers, Tamar Avnet and Anne-Laure Cillier. One's a clock timer, the other's an event timer. And they realize that in their own work, the clock person is always pushing to meet the deadline, while the event person is always saying, wait, this isn't good enough yet. They actually balance each other out perfectly.
So after looking at all of this, culture, history, our own personal psychology, what's the big takeaway here? What time is it really? At the end of the day, it's this. Time isn't some universal ticking clock that's the same for everyone. It's a lens. It's a cultural and psychological lens that completely shapes how we live, work, and connect with each other. And just knowing that someone else might be looking through a totally different lens, that alone can give us so much more patience and help us work together better, whether that's with a coworker on the other side of the world or the person sitting across from you at the dinner table. And that leaves us with one last question to chew on. Is it better to live in clock time or event time? I mean, our modern world is pretty much built on clock time, right? But some researchers think we could all use a little more event time in our lives. Being more tuned into what our bodies are telling us and what the task actually needs. So, what do you think? Which rhythm really serves you best? And how could you bring a little more of it into your own life?